listening to This Week in Big Sky Basketball as we take you around the conference for all the latest in Big Sky hoops. Now, here's your host, Scott Garrard.
Hey, welcome on in. It's another edition of This Week in Big Sky Basketball. I'm Scott Garrard. It was another undefeated week for the Montana Grizzlies on the men's side, reaching 9-0 at the midway point of the conference season. Weber State trails Montana with a 6-2 record for second place after picking up one win last week. Montana also went undefeated on the women's side as the Lady Grizz sit atop the league at 7-2, with Weber State close behind at 6-2 for second in the standings. Great show on tap for you today. Montana women's coach Shannon Schweyen will join us coming up here in just a moment. Idaho senior guard Victor Sanders and Skyline Sports Colter Nuanez. We'll talk about some of the top storylines from around the league. But first, let's take a look at what's been happening in Big Sky women's basketball. After 4 teams were tied atop the Big Sky standings last week, Montana emerges as the current leader with a 7-2 conference record. They get wins over Southern Utah and Northern Arizona on the road to claim its top spot atop the standings. Weber State remains within striking distance in second place with a 6-2 mark. Now, last time out, Weber State defeated Idaho State to complete the season sweep of the Bengals. Northern Colorado, Montana State, Idaho now tied for third with a 6-3 league record. This week's Ready Nutrition Player of the Week in the Big Sky Women's Hoops is Idaho's Jerry McCorkle. The senior guard averaged 28 points, 9.5 rebounds, and a pair of road victories over Northern Colorado and North Dakota. Against Northern Colorado, scored 22 points and went a perfect 9 for 9 from the field. In a wild first half of conference play, Montana's team now finds themselves in a good position to make a deep postseason run. With that, let's welcome in Montana's head coach Shannon Schweyen. Shannon, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you.
Hey, you're able to get 2 big victories, Southern Utah, Northern Arizona this week. How tough is it to play on the road in this conference, and what had you fired up about your team's play this week?
Well, every game in league, whether home or away, has been tough for everybody this year. I think more so than ever. It's been just absolutely wild, all the scores and who's beating who. So I don't think there's anybody around that's taken anything lightly. I think that, our group rolled into Southern Utah and got off to a slow start, and then just got fired up and clawed our way back into the game and ended up taking the lead later on as the game went on and just kept battling and had a good second half defensively and shot the ball really well in the third quarter. And were able to hold on and pull that one out at Southern Utah. And then got off to a good start at NAU, and it was a big battle up there, and we just continued to come out hot at halftime, and third quarter was good to us. And, they made a run at the end, credit to them, and we were able to just pull her out at the end.
You've had to deal with some injuries over the last few seasons to some key players. How has your team been able to band together and overcome adversity so well, and do you think that's benefiting you now going into this season?
Without a doubt. Losing Kaylee Valley, 2-time Big Sky MVP of the league, preseason pick, it was devastating to this group, not just for her play, but just losing her as a person. And it was a very emotional thing for our team to go through 2 seasons in a row. But the growth that we had last year and the growing pains that we had, it was a rough year as far as this team experiencing something that they never had in the losses and the disappointment and everything. But it has certainly paid off this year. I'm extremely proud of the way the girls have grown and gone through some tough times together, and they play for each other, and they just really, when they step out onto that court, they're beginning to believe they can beat anybody, and that's what you want out of a group of ladies when they put on that Montana uniform.
Well, and one thing they're doing when they put on that uniform, they're playing some defense. You're averaging teams to just 61.5 points per game. What's been able to work with this team to make them buy in so much defensively?
Yeah. Well, I think last year was when we were playing so many freshmen, it was just a matter of there were going to be breakdowns. I mean, you can't hardly put true freshmen on the floor at one time and not after a few passes have something go wrong. And so they were learning and understanding terminology and concepts and things like that last year, and it was really rough to go through that just because of our normal expectations of what we like to do defensively here at Montana. Hard to give up that many points and not get a road win and all the things that we went through last year. This year, we feel like we're several steps ahead of that, and so we knew we had a good base to build from, and they just are continuing to grow defensively and understand what we want to be doing, and I'm extremely proud of the pride that they have in their defense.
I was texting back and forth with a good friend, and I've called a bunch of games with her in the past, Krista Redpath, who she mentioned that she goes, the buzz is strong up here right now. Everybody's fired up about our basketball teams. What's it like getting this thing going and having the community rallying behind you?
Oh, it's great. I mean, the men are off to an incredible start, and they're really fun to watch, and I was happy to see them get some great crowds this last weekend, and deservingly so. I mean, it's an exciting basketball team to be watching. People around here are really talking basketball, men's and women's. So always awesome to have the community behind us. We typically always do. But, when you got a couple teams in first place, and you certainly hope that everybody's going to be coming out and supporting you and helping you keep that lead, and the home team environment and what we have here at Dahlberg is something special. So we really appreciate how loyal our fans are and getting a great environment for people to come in here and play in.
You get to host Northern Colorado and North Dakota this week. You lost to Northern Colorado earlier and then got a win against North Dakota. What's the key to getting a home sweep this weekend?
Well, I think obviously we didn't guard Northern Colorado the way we would have wanted to. We got off to a rough start. That kind of seems to be our pattern. We've got to get better at that, number one. But after about the first 6 minutes, we really did an okay job with them, played them fairly even. We just got off to a bad start with some miscues on what we were doing. But, they shoot a lot of threes. They have four guards that just have good numbers and get to the hole a ton. So we've got to try to keep them in front of us and still contest their three-point shots. And then we need to score. They did a nice job on us defensively down there, taking away, stripping the ball from us on lobs and some things that we just weren't quite strong enough. We've got to buckle up and be a lot stronger when we play them this time around, and take some pride in our rebounding and hurt them inside a little bit, I think, because they do play a smaller lineup. And then North Dakota is just a whole different challenge. I mean, they're bigger and stronger, I would say, and just, they have inside balance, outside balance, and so just different challenges between the two.
Well, Coach, we appreciate your time. Keep it rolling. We look forward to catching up again here very soon.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You too. That's Montana's head coach, Shannon Schweyen. And Montana's got it rolling both on the men's and the women's side. We'll talk more about that coming up here in a bit. But remember, for the last 30 years, Sports Graphics has been a leader in providing signage and services for the top professional and amateur sporting events across the country. That's why the Big Sky Conference is proud to work with Sports Graphics for all their signage at Big Sky Championships. Sports Graphics, proud sponsor of the Big Sky. When we take a short break, come back with Idaho senior guard Victor Sanders. We'll talk about this week's Big Sky Ready Nutrition Men's Player of the Week. It's all straight ahead. You're listening to another edition of This Week in Big Sky Basketball.
Big Sky fans want Big Sky gear, and the number one place for Big Sky Conference merchandise is at BigSkyShop.com. With thousands of items for your favorite Big Sky teams, including jerseys, t-shirts, hats, and more, BigSkyShop.com has the greatest selection you'll find anywhere. You'll also get great customer service, 365-day hassle-free returns, and $4.99 flat rate shipping on every order. So when you need Big Sky gear, head to BigSkyShop.com.
Big Sky fans, all 11 sports games are available on WatchBigSky.com and Pluto TV. 11 Sports is available on various cable, satellite, telco, and OTT providers. Make Big Sky football a part of your weekend by going to 11sportsusa.com/where to watch to find 11 Sports in your area. Again, for all the action, go to 11sportsusa.com/where to watch.
You're listening to This Week in Big Sky Basketball.
Welcome on back. It's segment number 2 here on This Week in Big Sky Basketball. I'm Scott Garrard. Remember the 2018 Big Sky Men's and Women's Championships being held in Reno, and it's coming up fast. Go to roadtoreno.com to get your tickets as well as hotel information. March 5th through the 10th, the Big Sky will take over Reno, Nevada, and we want you there. It's always a lot of fun in Reno. All right, let's take a look at what's been happening in the Big Sky on the men's side. First, in the first half of the league, Montana now sits, again, 9-0 in Big Sky play as the Grizzlies got wins over Southern Utah and Northern Arizona last week at home. Weber State avenged a conference opening loss to Idaho State on Saturday with the win in Pocatello for a 6-2 Big Sky record. Eastern Washington moving into a tie for third at 6-3 with Idaho after defeating North Dakota and Northern Colorado at home. And then following a loss to Northern Colorado, Idaho rebounded with a 25-point victory over North Dakota. Now, your Big Sky Ready Nutrition Player of the Week for the men's side was Eastern Washington senior Bogdan Bliznik, who became Eastern's new career scoring leader while climbing to number 10 on the Big Sky career scoring leaderboard. On the week, averaged 27 points, 6.5 rebounds, 4.5 assists, while shooting over 65% from the field. He now sits with 1,856 points for his career. Now it's time to welcome in good friend of the program, Idaho senior guard Victor Sanders to the show. Victor, how you doing, man?
Hello, I'm doing good. How about yourself?
We're doing well. Good to chat with you again. Your team currently in a tie for third place midway through the conference season. You have a 3-game homestand coming up, beginning with Portland State and Sacramento State. Let's talk about kind of the state of the team right now, where you're at. What do you feel like is going well for you, and what do you guys need to improve on?
I think we're doing good. You know, you just try to get better each day and continue to get better, and that's the goal. You know, every day you just try to figure out what you got to do to win a Big Sky championship, and I think that's what we're doing. You know, we lost. We took a hard loss on Thursday, and we got in the lab and figured it out, and I think it showed on Saturday night.
You're a native of Portland, Oregon. How did you end up playing ball in Idaho?
Recruitment. Somehow, some way, you know, Idaho found me, and it just clicked as soon as, you know, we made contact, and it just worked out, you know.
I've known Coach Verlin for quite some time. What was the process like when he walked into your home to try to get you to come play?
He just sat in my living room and told me what I had to do to become eligible for an NC Division I scholarship. And I accomplished those things, and, you know, the love was there. It felt real genuine, and, you know, I felt like it was something I could commit to.
One of the top 3-point shooters ever in the Big Sky. You just need 10 more to climb into the top 10 in conference standings. Has that always been part of your game, to be able to shoot from the outside, or is that something you've developed while being there at Idaho?
Yeah, I've always been able to shoot the ball. I think I just, you know, was able to make it more consistent and more, just more consistent, you know, just work on my game every day to try to improve every day.
You know, one thing, and this is pretty rare in college basketball, you've had 21 games this year, and you've had the same starting lineup in all 21 games. Not only have your starters been consistent, but you guys have been able to stay relatively healthy as well. How has that helped your team this year?
It helps a lot, because over the past couple of years, we've always been plagued by injury. You know, with me last year, a couple games, Perrion missed the whole season, so it's tough when you don't have your full team. And, you know, this year we've all been taking advantage of our training room and going in and getting treatments for whatever knickknacks guys got. And I think just being able to, you know, fight through it and persevere. And I think the senior, veteranship is there.
Well, and also you're an experienced team. So, I mean, it probably takes you guys don't get rattled very easily because you've been around the program for so long.
Yeah, that's a blessing. You know, to have 6 seniors on the team is rare.
All right, so if I've added this up correctly, you've got 1,635 career points. That's second in Idaho's record books on Saturday. Talk about what that means for you. I know you're a team guy, but you've been able to amass a lot of individual accolades and some records. What does that mean for you personally?
It won't mean nothing if we don't win. You know, it's a great accomplishment. You know, I appreciate it. I cherish it, and I'm humbled by it. But, you know, I'm really, like you said, I'm a team guy, and it would mean much more to me if we win. And, you know, I can leave cards and say we accomplished our goal that we set out in the beginning.
You opened the week against Portland State on Thursday, and I'm sure you still remember that game where the Vikings got you on a 1-point loss back on January 6th with that late tip-in by Holland Woods. Do you have revenge on your mind when you go into a game like this?
Not so much revenge. We just want to play our game, stick to our game plan, and just play the game the right way. We did that last game, and we just had a couple mishaps in the closing minutes, and, the game happened how it happened. So we just need to, get back in the film room, figure out what we got to do, and come back, strong. Is
that kind of the message the team has had this, a good chunk of this year is just finish the job? It's not good enough to play 37 minutes. We got to go the whole 40?
Yeah, because if you don't play the whole 40, anything can happen. If you're not focused for a whole 40 minutes, a lot can go wrong. And that's where we try to use our seniors and be able to pull the team together and be focused.
Well, Victor, we appreciate your time. This has been a fun conversation. Good luck the rest of the way. We look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
You got it. Idaho senior guard Victor Sanders right here on This Week in Big Sky Basketball. When we come back, we'll preview the week ahead in the Big Sky Conference. We'll also have a visit from Colter Nuanez of Skyline Sports. We'll also let you know where you can find all the Big Sky games on television this weekend. Keep it locked. You're listening to another edition of This Week in Big Sky Basketball. Pluto TV is your one-stop shop for Big Sky action. The leading free internet television service in America will stream live sporting events, including up to 700 football, men's and women's basketball, volleyball, and selected soccer, softball, and track and field events. Simply go to Pluto TV to find games from several different sports. Pluto TV is your one-stop shop for all Big Sky action. The road to Reno is here. March 5th, 2018, the Big Sky Conference will descend upon Reno, Nevada for the 2018 Big Sky Men's and Women's Basketball Championships. Go to roadtoreno.com to book tickets and accommodations for Big Sky Men's and Women's Basketball. The road to Reno is here. Be part of the thrill of Big Sky Men's and Women's Basketball and join the road to Reno.
This Week in Big Sky Basketball.
All right, final segment of another edition of This Week in Big Sky Hoops. I'm Scott Garrard. Big Sky Conference will air all of its live stream sports events on Pluto TV for free, including up to 700 football, men's and women's basketball, volleyball, and selected soccer, softball, and track and field events. All 11 sports production will also be available on WatchBigSky.com and Pluto TV. 11 Sports is available on various cable, satellite, telco, and OTT providers. And remember, Big Sky games can be seen on Watch Big Sky and Pluto TV with this week's men's basketball 11 Sports Game of the Week featuring league leader Montana at North Dakota on Saturday. In men's action this week, Northern Colorado and North Dakota will play host to Montana and Montana State. Southern Utah, Northern Arizona welcome in Weber State and Idaho State, while Portland State and Sacramento State are hosting Eastern Washington and Idaho. On the women's side, Montana State bring in North Dakota and Northern Colorado to the Treasure State. Weber State and Idaho State will host Southern Utah and Northern Arizona, and Eastern Washington and Idaho welcome in Portland State and Sacramento State to round out all the action this week. And remember, every single Big Sky game can be seen on Pluto TV and WatchBigSky.com for free and in high definition. Whether you're watching on a tablet, smartphone, laptop, or desktop, you can access the Big Sky anywhere. All right, let's welcome in the guru of all things Big Sky sports, Colter Nuanez of Skyline Sports. Colter, how you doing, my man?
Good, Scotty. How you doing?
Good to chat with you again. Montana is in the driver's seat in the men's and women's side, more so on the men's side, but still, I was talking to, I mentioned earlier in a previous segment, I was talking to Krista Redpath, and she was talking about how crazy things are up there in Montana right now because men's and women's both in the catbird seat and feeling pretty good. What's it like up there in Montana with both those programs playing so well?
Well, it's kind of back to the norm for the Lady Grizz. Last year was kind of an anomaly. Literally their first really not great year in 25-plus years. I mean, Robin Silvick had so much success here, and last year it kind of bottomed out with both the injury to Kaylee Bally and then a roster with 8 freshmen. I think everybody expected the Lady Grizz to be better because they did play so many young players last year, but I don't know if they necessarily thought they were going to be in first place at the midpoint. So that's been impressive. But then on the men's side, everybody was cautiously optimistic that this would be the year that Travis DeCuire's vision started to kind of come to full force. DeCuire was really good his first 2 years, 21 seasons both years, but a lot of that was built around Martin Breuning, who was Wayne Tickle's big recruit, transfer from the University of Washington. And they played a different style than maybe Travis wanted to, but testament to him just because Martin Breuning's a special talent. And if you have a guy like that can get you so many buckets, you just want to get him the ball. Well, now they have way more of a roster that's catered to what Travis wants to do. I think the one caveat with these two squads is we've kind of seen that Southern Utah and Northern Arizona are kind of two bottom teams in both the men's and the women's side, and Montana has played both those schools twice in men's and women's. So 4 of the 9 games that you certainly should win at this point. But all that said, halfway through the year to be in first place for both schools, pretty good vibe in Missoula right now.
The standings are pretty tight on the women's side. You got 6 teams within 1 game of each other, but you also have Idaho and Montana State who have each won 4 straight games now. In your opinion, with all of that in mind, who seems to be the hottest team right now playing their best basketball?
Well, it's pretty hard to go outside of Montana for that one just because Montana State, not only have they won the 4 straight, but one of those wins is over first-place Montana, and It was in deciding fashion in Bozeman. I think that was a really impressive win. That was a huge corner-turning win for the Lady Bobcats. This is a squad that's the 2-time defending league champs, and I think a lot of people forget that because they do lose such a paramount player in Peyton Ferris and also just such a smart plug in Riley Norgard, but it seems like their young players are really coming together. But Idaho is another team that's really playing well as of late, and it's really hard to put them anywhere but in the front of the conference race as well, because when you have someone like Michaela Ferenz who can go off for over 30 points at the drop of a hat, and then you can pair her with someone like Geraldine McCorkle who can do the same thing. I think those 2 girls are 2 of the 5 most explosive scorers in the entire league. Ferenz is filling it up. 23 points per game, no matter what level, men's, women's, that's no joke. You're getting buckets at that point. And so I think that Idaho is definitely a huge threat as well.
We spend a lot of time in these conversations talking about the best teams, but I want to focus in on some players on the men's side. Who's standing out to you that you expected to have a good season, and are there any players that may have surprised you with some performances that you may not have expected going into this year?
Well, I think that the headliners are living up to the billing, guys like Tyler Hall and Vic Sanders. But there's been some other guys that have really risen up as well. Michael Ogine is a guy that, if you follow the Grizz, you know a lot about him. But I don't know if he's necessarily that headliner-type star yet. But I think he should be. He's a tremendously athletic player who is probably the best two-way player in the entire league, and he does so much for Montana. We talked about Jarek Harding last week. I think he's really improved to make himself a star. Bogdan Blizniuk is obviously a huge player. Justin Strings, Ahmad Rory. Those guys all get a ton of headlines. But guys that have really stood out to me, and maybe aren't those headline grabbers, Deontay North from Portland State. I've heard from a lot of coaches they think he's a Pac-12 level talent, and he's really proven that right now. I think he's second in the league in scoring during conference play. Jared Stutzman's been a huge addition for Idaho State, Utah Valley transfer. Had 30-plus points this last weekend, and he's really been a key to their resurgence. And I think Jamal Aites is another guy that I got a chance to watch this last weekend from Southern Utah. He's only Southern Utah's fourth leading scorer. I think that's been because of maybe a slow acclimation of the program and a lack of opportunity. Now that he's getting touches, he's unstoppable. I mean, he reminds me a lot of Jamar Coe from Montana, where they're just big and strong and they can catch the ball wherever they want. And if they do, it's kind of just over because they can get such good position, they can get those tight touches, and they can finish so well. So all in all, I mean, a pretty star-studded league right now. There's a lot of guys that are surprising and a lot of guys that are living up to billing, but there's a lot of talent right now on the men's side.
Well, let's continue on the men's side. Weber State and Eastern Washington both avenged some earlier conference losses, with Weber State knocking off Idaho State and Eastern Washington taking on Northern Colorado. Montana's still yet to play either of those teams, as well as Idaho. So out of that group, who do you think gives the Grizzlies the most amount of trouble when they do finally meet up?
I think Northern Colorado is kind of a wild card on the men's side because they quite literally could hit 23s in a game. I mean, if they're shooting it well, they can just go off. And Andre Spite is probably the front runner for newcomer of the year in the league. And when he gets it going, he's pretty darn dangerous. So I think Northern Colorado, but also Montana does such a good job of chasing teams off the three-point line. They haven't really gotten beat by three-point shooting. Northern Colorado did their darndest in Missoula, but I think that the team that everybody's looking forward to the matchup with on both sides is Montana at Idaho, second to last weekend of the regular season. Idaho, the thing is they dictate the pace of the game better than anybody in the league. They are going to play their style no matter what you do. They're so disciplined in the stuff they run on both offense and defense. That's very reminiscent of Montana. So I think that that's going to be a game where Idaho's going to play whatever style they need to play to keep it a close game, whether it's slow it down or make it ugly or a little bit of both. And so I think that'll be a challenge for Montana. Momentum could be a key factor in that one. If Montana keeps rolling before that road swing to Eastern Washington and Idaho, Grizzlies could be pretty dang hot. So, but that's a matchup everybody's looking forward to, that one in Moscow in a couple weeks when the Vandals host the Grizz.
Well, Colter, we appreciate it. What do you got coming up on the podcast?
We got a bunch of different things. We're talking to Bogdan Blizniak, who became Eastern Washington's all-time leading scorer this week. He's into the top 10 in school history and in league history.
League history, yeah.
In scoring. Zach Braxton from Weber State and Josh Patton from Sac State, a couple of the better big men in the league, are going to join us as well. And Bobby Moorhead, kind of the glue guy for Montana. He'll join us. And then Tricia Binford from Montana State, talk about her team's hot play on the women's side of things. So we got a packed podcast this week, but it should be a good one.
Great stuff as always, man. We appreciate your time.
Hey, thanks so much, Scott.
You got it. Colter Nuanez of Skyline Sports. All right, big thanks to him, as well as Montana women's coach Shannon Schweyen, also Idaho senior guard Victor Sanders. Also, big thanks to Austin Horton, who puts the show together, as well as executive producers of This Week in Big Sky Basketball, Blake Barrington and Lee Williams. I'm Scott Garrard. We'll be back with you next week. Enjoy the games right here on This Week in Big Sky Basketball.